at CAZ Sports Bar in Casino, Arizona, your home for uncensored sports betting opinions, analysis, and advice. The guys have you covered for all the games. Now, take the points on Fox Sports 910 and the iHeartRadio app.
Good Saturday morning to you. Back at the CAZ Sports Bar once again this week. I'm Mike Gross alongside Mike Bauer, Jackson Croft. Taking up at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Ryan Cirk back in studio. Good to have the whole gang together, Jackson.
I know, right? It's been a minute.
I took a week off last week. I missed you guys.
I want to make sure, how are you doing? Because obviously, the last time we saw you was the weekend before Michigan TCU. Me and Mike Bauer were both working the game. Yeah. You were here. How is your morale doing? How is your mental after Michigan losing the TCU?
So I think we have to go all the way back to that Saturday, the 31st. And
it was only 3 weeks ago.
Ryan and I were doing the show together, and we were doing our picks, and I said, give me Michigan. I don't care. Give me Michigan by 100. I said, Michigan's got this. But I was in total fan mode at that point. I was, and you and I talked a little bit. I was so disappointed with Michigan. And I understand Michigan fans like, okay, there was a bad call, right? That should have been a touchdown, whatever. You did so much to shoot yourself in the foot in that game, and you were on the field, so you saw it. And we talked about that double reverse when you're in the red zone.
The Philly special.
With the best offensive line in college football. Mm-hmm. And that's the play you come up with there?
Yeah, and the second time they were inside the one, when it wasn't a touchdown, they went with the fullback dive with their fullback that hasn't really played that much. He fumbles instead of giving it to Donovan Edwards, your best running back, up the middle. So
I don't understand it.
Tough loss.
It was a really tough loss, disappointing loss, and then, made worse by the fact that TCU just got rolled by Georgia in the championship game on Monday. But, hey, that's Michigan fans for you. We're one step ahead, right? Like last year, we got bounced, and now we'll keep trying.
They'll be good. They'll be good next year.
And hey, they're already. You look at the rankings. The preseason rankings. But the other thing, we need to get somebody to put some numbers out on this. What's becoming more tiresome? The offseason speculation about what Jim Harbaugh is going to do, or the offseason speculation about what Aaron Rodgers is going to do?
Ooh.
Give me some numbers on that.
We should do a poll.
We should do a poll because it is tedious.
For me, honestly, I think I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers just because I feel like every single year from ever since they drafted Jordan Love, it's been, is he coming back? Is he going to sign this contract? Is he even going to play football again? Every single year. Jim Harbaugh, on the other hand, I feel like he's been in speculation for the past maybe 2 years. Yeah. But Rodgers has been for the past 3 or 4.
Yeah. And Harbaugh, I think there's some lingering issues between him and his athletic director that are kind of playing out here. But, we'll see. But that's a good idea. Maybe we'll do a poll. We'll throw it out there and see what people think about that. Hey, coming up on the show today, we're going to talk Arizona Cardinals with Bo Brock. That's coming up in just a few minutes here. Bo Brock of PHNX Cardinals. They do a great job covering all the sports, but Bo specifically talking about the Cardinals. Cardinals, of course, fired Cliff Kingsbury, made it official that Steve Keim will not return, and so they've got a lot of work to do this off. They did anyways. But, it starts now with the owner, Michael Bidwell. He, the one who gave Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim those contract extensions less than 1 year ago. Will money be a factor in his decisions about how he replaces them is, I think, the big question.
Well, he did just sell his house for $5 million
just
earlier this week. So I don't know if that's going to cut it there for Mr. Bidwell.
Was he sleeping on a couch at Cardinals headquarters because times are tight?
I think he realizes that this fan base is looking at him right now and saying, hey, Bidwell, are you for real? Do you really want to win? How will you portray this organization moving forward? And what will you do to put this organization in its best foot coming up? Because you got a new GM now. You got a new head coach. I'm interested to see Bo Brock. This is someone who covers the Cardinals, who watches film on the Cardinals, who goes to games and is a deep reporter when it comes to the Cardinals on who he thinks would be the best fit in Arizona, not who would be the best candidate, who would be the best fit for the quarterback, for what they want to do on defensively. Because, names like Brian Flores has been coming up, who's interesting. Vance Joseph, which I don't want Vance Joseph at all, but he's the second favorite odds right now at plus 350. Mm-hmm. We got Sean Payton at plus 300. and then you got Brian Flores, and you got D'Amico Ryans rounding up the odds.
Well, and then the question becomes, if you're Michael Bidwell, of course, he's the final say on all this. Is Sean Payton worth draft capital? Is a head coach in the National Football League, particularly for a team that has so many needs, particularly for a team who gave up their first-round pick last year for a wide receiver who was injured and didn't really produce, I think, the way you hoped he would. Do you give up another first-round pick? Because when you're the Cardinals or a team like the Cardinals, that is not something that I'll be honest, you need these picks. You look at who's going to be available at 3 for the Arizona Cardinals. You could have a generational defensive talent.
Will Anderson Jr., Alabama edge rusher, 6'4",
Sign him up right now.
240. I think if he drops, which I think he will, because I think the first 2 picks are going to be quarterbacks. Or, I think it's going to be first 2 quarterbacks. I think the Bears will trade out. Colts maybe trade in for the Bears. And then the Texans will take a quarterback there at 2. But I agree with you, Gross. I just think you got more upside with an edge rusher or defensive end at number 3 versus everyone's talking about Sean Payton. What if Sean Payton doesn't turn out the way everyone thinks so in Arizona? What if he turns out to be like Cliff Kingsbury and comes for 4 years and then gets fired?
Yeah.
You know, like Rock and Manoush mentioned earlier this week, there's been no head coach the Cardinals have had longer than 6 years. The longest they've had in recent seasons was which was Bruce Arians, I believe, when he was here for 5 years. But
right, well, and that look that there's a difference, and you can look at that in the National Football League. Well-run franchises, the best probably and most iconic franchise, the Steelers. 3 coaches since the '60s. 3 coaches since the the Cardinals, the Jets, the Lions, the Bears, teams that churn through coaches. So I think that's a great point. And you've got to find something. And I right now, I like the idea of Sean Payton on the one hand, but you need draft capital. You need draft capital in the worst way. So we'll see. Big question to keep an eye on, as you said. We'll get into that with Bo Brock coming up a little bit later on. We're out here at the CAZ Sports Bar, Casino, Arizona, Loop 101 in McKellips, and no football on right now. It's weird. This is the first time that we've come in, and there hasn't been football on the big screens as we get ready to spend the next couple of hours here doing the radio show. Yeah, lots of college basketball.
Yeah, we're a betting show, folks, but we like to call ourselves kind of like a pregame college football show because every single time we walk in, there's so much college football going on right now. So now we're kind of transitioning into the college basketball season, and folks, there's still NFL on today. There's two NFL games on today, 3 tomorrow, and 1 on Monday that we will talk about what bets we like, what odds we don't like, what should you stay away from, what props we like. All of that coming up. I love Wild Card Weekend.
Wow, this is the best weekend of football. I think this is it. What do they call it? Super Wild Card, where you've got games today, you've got games tomorrow, and they cap it off with a game on Monday night. An interesting game Monday night for sure. The Cowboys will draw big numbers as they travel to Florida to play the Buccaneers. So we'll talk about all of that, as you said. As I mentioned a moment ago, Bo Brock coming up in just a minute. We'll talk Arizona Cardinals with him. Also, this hour, we will talk to Jeff Hoodzow. We'll get his picks, your chance to get online, pick against Jeff for a chance to win a gift card, and we're getting closer and closer to giving away that big TV. And you want to get online with us a little bit later on this hour. And then, of course, at 12:30 for his weekly visit, our good friend Marco D'Angelo. He'll pick a couple of games for us. And if you can't wait around or you need a good follow on social media, follow Marco on Twitter at Marco in Vegas, the website, wagertalk.com. All of us agree. It's a great follow. All the things they're doing out there, the free content that they throw out there. Marco's got free picks already out there on social media. You can check them out. Wager Talk TV is awesome. And Bauer and I talked about this at the outset of this show. The website, wagertalk.com, they've got a link called Wagering 101. Maybe you're new to it. What is a money line? I have no idea what a money line is. Go to wagertalk.com, check out the Sports Wagering 101, and they'll walk you through it. You know, you can learn while you're doing this, while you have some fun. Wagertalk.com. But Marco at 12:30. Also, since we're talking about what to do, you're home for the pro football playoffs, as we like to say, right here at the CAZ Sports Bar all the way through. They're getting keyed up. You can tell it's kind of like the calm before the storm here, Jackson. You know, you got one of the folks up there. He's adjusting all the TV screens, getting them ready for later on this afternoon. But every Saturday, or I'm sorry, every day that there's a game, doors are open at 10 a.m. Your chance to get in here, watch some games, wager on the games, great food and drink. What'd you have for breakfast, by the way?
Oh, the good old breakfast Sammy. Let's go. Cheese, eggs, ham, all in a sandwich, and they got some potatoes on the side with some ketchup. Cheese.
And a bowl of honeydew melon on the side. Hey, but seriously, CAZ Sports Bar, they've got 2 theater quality projection screens. And on top of that, 46 4K flat screens all throughout the sports bar. And you come in on the far end from where we're sitting, you've got the Sportsbook staffed up and ready to go. Get here a little bit early. Don't walk in here right before kickoff. Could be a line, so you want to get your wagers in, build in a little bit of time. If you're a self-service type of person on the other side, they've got the self-service kiosks for all your sports betting. They got the lines, over-unders. You can do parlays, props, all the good stuff here at the CAZ Sports Bar. And then we're going to be out here for the big game coming up next month. We'll give you some details on that later on. Don't look at our picture online, though. I don't know where they should have let you do it.
We look great. What do you mean?
You're our social media expert. You can crop things better. Make me look good, Jackson. Darn it.
Yeah,
that's what we got to do.
I had the buzz haircut too. I looked like I just got.
I didn't even recognize you. I thought that was like your younger brother. I thought that's what they had up there.
I think we took those in September. It's been a long time.
Jackson's younger brother in the picture. All right, we'll step aside here, take care of some business on the other side. Bo Brock will join us and help us sort out. And this might be the first of many calls to sort out the disaster that is the Arizona Cardinals. That's coming up next right here on Fox Sports 910.
Sports Bar and Casino, Arizona, exclusively
Good life.
Fox Sports 910.
Welcome back. Regular listeners know we do weekly picks here on the show. And last week we picked a couple of games, 3 games actually, but the first question was, will Cliff Kingsbury be the coach of the Arizona Cardinals next year? I was 1-3 last week on my picks.
Yeah, you were.
But the only thing I got right was whether or not the Cardinals would fire Cliff Kingsbury, and that happened Monday morning after he met with owner Michael Bidwell. And to help us talk about that, and probably more importantly, what's next for this franchise, our good friend Bo Brock joins us now. Bo, it's Bauer, Gross, and Jackson. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you were able to hit on that Cliff Kingsbury bet, man. That's great.
Yeah, right?
we got Bo Brock on the line right now. That's crazy.
Right?
Jeez.
We're so happy to have you, Bo. And you know, you and I talked right before the new year, and we knew it was coming, right? It was like watching this thing unfold in slow motion, so the proverbial slow motion car wreck. It had to happen, and now, you know, I'll start it with just a high level and something you and I touched on before. Michael Bidwell on the hot seat, but this is the same Michael Bidwell that extended Cliff Kingsbury, extended Steve Keim unnecessarily in March of this year, and was in the media all over the place. I'm sure you guys covered it, saying, hey, this is the future, this is the franchise, we're in the right direction. And a lot of people kind of looked at him sideways then. This is tough for a team like the Cardinals to absorb this kind of financial hit and then make an impact hire that they must do right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a message that Michael Bidwell was sending to the fan base that, you know, the ceiling for Cliff Kingsbury seemed to be mediocrity, you know, and that he wants something a little bit better than that. He said, and he's maintained that he wants to take this team to new heights, unseen heights, and that's, you know, finishing a Super Bowl on top and hoisting that Lombardi trophy. So, you know, he saw that Cliff Kingsbury obviously had a ceiling, and then also that the team took a massive step back. And as far as the extensions that were signed in last before spring for Keim and Cliff Kingsbury, that was something he was willing to take a hit financially to move this thing forward and to, as he said, cast a wide net to find the right GM and the right head coach to get them back on track.
Hey, Bo, before we get into the Cardinals' next options, I want to talk about the guys who are on the way out. Clearly, they're not going to be driving for Uber Eats or anything like that. But what is next for Steve Keim and whatever the health-related absence is from the team? And what's next for Cliff Kingsbury? Because, you know, our good friend Ian Rappaport tweeted the other day that he said that we're going to see Cliff in Ibiza before we see him on an NFL sideline or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Steve Keim. This is somebody that a couple times during Michael Bidwell's press conference, first been in the Cardinals organization for about 5 years, started as a scout, made his way up to the ranks, and then 13 after they fired Rod Graves. He's a guy that had the ear of Michael Bidwell all that time, and everything that Bidwell knows about team building, he's learned most of it from Steve Keim. So this is something that Bidwell said was from Steve Keim. He resigned. He put in his resignation officially last week after he stepped away in early December, health-related reasons, and he was going to focus on his going forward. So we don't know how much of a big financial, you know, hit he'll take for that. I mean, I would assume if Steve Keim officially resigned, that they don't have to pay out every single dime of that. You know, it does kind of end the idea that he would return to the organization. A lot of reports out there saying he wasn't going to return to the GM spot, but could return in some other capacity. But now it seems like his time is done, his tenure's over, and he'd have to probably resurface elsewhere if he wanted to. But you know, he's got a pretty checkered resume that raised a lot of red flags. I would think it should have for this organization. And will going forward with any future.
Bo Brock.
It'd be hard pressed to see him surface as a general manager elsewhere. But as far as, you know, Cliff Kingsbury, a lot of people, you know, speculate that he could be a guy that could resurface at the college level. He's maintained that he doesn't want to go back to the college level. He doesn't like dealing with 17 and 18-year-olds. He likes more of the professional game. So you got to look at maybe some quarterback coaching positions, offensive coordinator, you got one in New England. That seems to be an easy connecting the dots. You got an opening in New York with the Jets. So, he's going to have some opportunities. But, yeah, it seems like with all those guaranteed dollars that he's going to have between now and 2026, he has the luxury of taking some time and picking the right spot for himself.
Bo Brock, PHNX Sports, PHNX Cardinals reporter, joins us right now. And obviously throughout the season, it seemed like the Arizona Cardinals have been in the storylines and the news pretty much every single week. And obviously with Cliff Kingsbury being fired and the rumors of Sean Payton earlier this week have been roaming. But there's one other report I want to talk to you about earlier this week about the Cardinals wanting to trade DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I don't think that's a good move personally. I think obviously – it's good to save some money and it's good to get some draft capital. But I think with someone like DeAndre Hopkins is so crucial in this offense. What is your take on this whole situation? And do you see DeAndre Hopkins actually getting traded, or do you think he stays depending on who the head coach and GM are?
I just want to know, what does Bauer's face look like when you ask that question about DeAndre Hopkins staying put? Does he look like he wants that, or does he want his Chicago Bears to be heavy players for his services?
I mean, nowhere near what people are talking about in terms of the trade package. There's no way the Bears are trading, any good picks for somebody like that. But I'd love to see him in a Bears uniform. It'd be a hell of a combo with Justin Fields. But it can't cost too much.
No second rounders. No second rounders, no third rounders. I mean, look, DeAndre Hopkins. I think this is something. The report came from Jordan Schultz, who does good work, and the way that he kind of reported this was that Michael Bidwell's telling potential GMs that the Cardinals' plan is to try and trade DeAndre Hopkins. Now, there's a lot of variables that go into that. DeAndre Hopkins has a full no trade clause.
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins has a $30 million cap hit with, for the Arizona Cardinals, close to $20 million in dead money that they'd have to figure out as far as what they want to do about that. Now, post June 1st, if he's traded, it's significantly lower. It's about $11 million in 2023. But this is something that could be mutually beneficial. And you hear comments from DeAndre Hopkins. He's not going to be a Patrick Peterson and fully come out through his representation and say, hey, I want out of Arizona. So maybe this is something that they'd worked on together, and Michael Bidwell publicly has taken the arrow for that. But, it's mutually beneficial in the sense that the Arizona Cardinals, as far as them competing and contending for a playoff spot, as much as they want to think this rebuild is going to be something, quicker than usual, and that they have the pieces in place to turn things around sooner rather than later, DeAndre Hopkins going into age 31 season and making the money that he's making, it can be mutually beneficial for both sides. The Cardinals can recoup some assets, and DeAndre Hopkins can go elsewhere and compete and contend and, maximize as far as winning the final years that he's playing at a high level. So I think it's something they're going to explore. If they can't get anything, if there's general managers that are like Bauer out there and are holding on to their picks, they don't want to elite wide receiver play, then, they hold on to DeAndre Hopkins. That's the worst thing that can happen. So the report was, they plan to try to trade. And look, if something doesn't happen for them that's going to get, his worth in return, the worst case, they hold on to him.
A couple more minutes with Bo Brock talking about the Arizona Cardinals, what they're going to do going forward. And unlike Steve Keim, unlike Cliff Kingsbury, you're stuck with your quarterback because of the salary cap, because of the contract that you gave him this offseason. And you and your colleague over there at PHNX Cardinals, Johnny Venerable, you guys had a good conversation about Brian Flores as a possibility.
Yeah.
And how important is it for Michael Bidwell, and if they do get a general manager to help with the selection of a head coach, to have a guy that can come in and help work with and maybe provide the development and guidance that Kyler Murray didn't get under the Cliff Kingsbury regime?
Yeah, I like, how the leadership qualities from Brian Flores, and you look at the guys that they've requested interviews for, Sean Payton, but then the other three guys are more importantly, two of the defensive coordinators that they've requested, DeMeco Ryans and Brian Flores, known as great leaders inside the locker room, leaders of men, more so than just defensive guys. Obviously, you're going to have to bring in a pretty dynamic offensive mind to couple with these guys because of their defensive background. The most important thing with Flores is his relationship soured with Tua last season in Miami, and it was part of the big reason why he was fired. His relationship soured with the GM Chris Greer there and Tua, and they wanted to move forward, and they brought in Mike McDaniel, which seems to be the right move. But it's undeniable that he was able to kind of get more from a lesser roster in Miami, and you like that. You like because haven't seen that with Cliff Kingsbury. As far as these guys go, I mean, you're trying to find somebody that can speak to Kyler and maybe give him the tough love. But with Flores, you have to figure out and vet whether he believes in Kyler Murray, because you're tied to Kyler Murray.
Yep.
If he doesn't believe in him and he treats him like he treated Tua, and that relationship, it just completely goes south, you're really you're torpedoing your chances in the near future and really saddling yourself up with a bad coach who doesn't like your quarterback, who's tied to you with a bad contract. I don't think that's the way you got to go. But if he feels like, hey, this is somebody I can work with, and Bidwell says he's going to talk to Kyler about whoever they hire head coach, this is something where, hey, do you think you guys could work together? And are you willing to take that tough love? I'm not saying that Kyler shouldn't be able to take the criticism and the tough love enough to grow as a quarterback and a leader. But if it's just something that's just going to be oil and water or oil and vinegar, it's not going to be great. You just don't even start your conversation, right? You don't even kind of really. Does Brian Flores does he become a legit head coach candidate? I would say no. If that's kind of a non-starter, I would believe.
Bo Brock from PHNX Sports joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at Bob Rack. Bo, we're sitting here at the CAZ Sports Bar. A lot of people walking up, putting their money down, going up to the kiosks. I mean, it's a great scene here. But if you take a look at the board, there are some odds for the Cardinals' next head coach. So if Bo Brock was to walk in to ZAC Sports Bar right now and try to sweet talk his way into a head coaching bet, we're looking at Sean Payton at plus 300, Vance Joseph plus 350, staying in house. DeMeco Ryans, he'll be soaking. He'll be soaking wet on the sidelines in San Francisco for the Niners this afternoon. He's plus 500. Byron Leftwich is a name that a lot of people have thrown out there based on his time here in the past, plus 1,400. So there's some big names atop the leaderboard, if you will, in terms of the betting odds. Bo, if I handed you $20 right now and you walked up to the window, who would you put your money on?
Man, I mean, I'm trying not to bet with my heart here, bet with my mind. It's because Ian Rappaport said yesterday, Bauer, he thinks it's pretty legit, the interest between Sean Payton and the Arizona Cardinals. And if you look at, they're the top of the trash heap as far as these vacancies go. And, barring a Chargers collapse or a Cowboys collapse here in the first round of the playoffs, I think that the Arizona Cardinals are the top contender. Kyle Odegaard, who's covered this team for so long, believes that as well. He told us that on Thursday. So, as much as people thought it was far-fetched, a lot of people who covered this team for a long time didn't think Sean Payton was a fit or would be interested. But I do think, the wise guys in Vegas, the odds makers, they believe that there's a chance that it's going to happen. So if I've got $20, I'm putting it on Sean Payton. Ooh. And I think it's more than just bet with my heart there. But you've also got the key part of this is, even if it isn't Payton, I really don't think there's a legit chance that Vance Joseph unless things just completely go south. But you got guys like Payton and DeMeco Ryans that are top favorites there for the Cardinals job, and you have to get excited about that. I think that's what Bidwell was anticipating. Only 5 vacancies right now, and they're probably one of the more competitive teams roster-wise for these candidates, that if they can land one of them, it can really start to expedite turning things around for the Arizona Cardinals.
He's Bo Brock. Great job covering the Arizona Cardinals. Check out the website, gophnx.com. See the great work, the Cardinals. They got Craig Morgan covering the Coyotes. Great coverage up and down the line over there. Bo, good stuff today. We appreciate it. We're sure we'll talk to you again very, very soon.
I'm glad I could join you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bo.
That's Bo Brock. Okay, we'll step aside here. On the other side, I want to dive into that DeAndre Hopkins question a little bit, just a little bit, and see where we go from here. That's coming up on Fox Sports 910.
Back to Take the Points. Powered by the Sportsbook at CAZ Sports Bar in Casino, Arizona. Exclusively on Fox Sports 910.
You're live.
Thanks again to Bo Brock talking Arizona Cardinals with us in the last segment. I'm sure we'll have him on again in the very near future. Good thing this is. Well, you can see this. You too. Hey, 2 games today.
For our listeners, you have to let them know what you're referring to.
No, I'm just letting it hang.
They're referring to the live stream on Twitter and on YouTube, but with gross.
I'm above the corner of my I'm in the middle of this.
You can see.
I'm in the middle of this. Hey,
just dance it because our guy Ryan back in studio, he's playing hits like
bangers.
Let's go.
2 games today in the National Football League. Get out here to CAZ Sports Bar. Check it out. Checking the lines from the window at the Sportsbook here. The early game, the 49ers are still 9.5 on this one. I've seen that one as high as 10.5 around the universe. And Chargers and the Jaguars. I'm looking forward to this game. 2.5-point favorites are the Los Angeles Chargers. Hey, we talked with Bo in the last segment, guys. I want to dig into this a little bit because I think it's one of the big offseason questions for the Cardinals. Whether it was Michael Bidwell planting the seed, whether it was DeAndre Hopkins, whether it was somebody in the media, I think it's a legitimate question about a wide receiver who's over 30, which means that his shelf life is starting to shorten up. A guy, when you look at what went wrong this year with the Arizona Cardinals, was a big part of what went wrong. I mean, he missed the first 6 games of this season. And if you can move him for draft capital, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, do you do that? You think no, Jackson. I'm of the mind, I don't know, and I think Bo mentioned it. He's not going to turn into Patrick Peterson to a distraction. But if you've got a wide receiver like that doesn't want to be here, maybe you do pull the trigger, help the new coach, help the new general manager, rebuild, retool, give them some capital to do that with. The cap hit is something you absolutely have to consider. And DeAndre Hopkins has nobody to blame but himself because he got a huge deal from Steve Keim. The no trade clause and the amount of money. So DeAndre Hopkins got what he wanted when he came here. So he's got nobody to blame but himself. However,
we don't know if he doesn't want to be here. The reports that came out earlier this week is that the Cardinals are going to try to trade him, which I don't know if that's all Bidwell, if it's a mutual thing, or if DeAndre Hopkins brought it up to Bidwell. But for me personally, I think DeAndre Hopkins, we still have yet to see a real dominant season between Hopkins and Murray. It seems like the first 2 years that they played together, one has been hurt or one's been suspended or they've both been hurt. We have yet to see Hopkins and Murray for an entire season, to see these two click. Obviously, next year won't be an entire season with Kyler Murray coming back from an ACL, but I think DeAndre Hopkins is a pivotal part of this offense, and I think if you can get a good mind like a Sean Payton or a good offensive mind to come in and really utilize this offense, especially with Marquise Brown, with Rondale Moore, I don't see why not you keep DeAndre Hopkins because he's 31, but he's performing at a great level, might be the best of his career so far.
Guys, I'm just poking around at azcentral.com, kind of broke down some of the odds, right? I mean, we're sitting here at the Casino Arizona CAZ Sportsbook. So I'm always thinking about the odds, and you can find some internet odds right here because the Casino Arizona wouldn't mess with silliness like this. But you can find some internet odds that has the Chiefs at plus 300, that has the New England Patriots at plus 325, Packers third at plus 450, the Dallas Cowboys plus 550, New York Football Giants at plus 750, the Detroit Lions plus 1,000 in the field, plus 500 for the field. Now, granted, that's a lot of teams right there, but plus 500 the field. All those other teams behind the Kansas City Chiefs, the Patriots, and the Packers as options. Again, the other question comes is, what are you looking at in terms of return? All right, if you're the Cardinals and you hire a Sean Payton, it's going to cost you some sort of draft capital. Yeah. How do you recoup that draft capital it's going to cost you to hire your guy? By trading your best trade chip outside of Kyler Murray, which you're not going to do. It's trade DeAndre Hopkins. So it'd be interesting to see, the Chiefs, the Patriots, and the Packers, all teams that could definitely use DeAndre Hopkins like literally every other team in the NFL.
Well, interestingly enough, when Bo asked you, what do you think about the Bears would never, ever make that trade. The Ravens would never make that trade. There's certain franchises that you know how they're wired, and they're not going to be in that conversation.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to give Justin Fields to be successful, they're not going to do it by making a trade like that. Whatever you need, Lamar Jackson hasn't had a wide receiver, and I don't know how long. Well, Hollywood Brown, but there's certain franchises where I could make a strong case right here, and I could say the Baltimore Ravens are the perfect spot for DeAndre Hopkins, but you know that team would never make that trade because that's not what they do. Also, making this interesting is you look at the amount of money that this team, the Cardinals, has tied up in the wide receiver room right now. As it stands right now, DeAndre Hopkins is under contract for next year with this team. Hollywood Brown, Robbie Anderson, you forgot about him, didn't you? Rondell Moore still has another year on his deal, and Chris Dortch is a restricted. Chris Dortch. Yeah, wait, great. Anyways,
that's Chris's brother.
Yeah, exactly. He's a restricted free agent. So, you've got some players that you can put out there. It's not like DeAndre Hopkins is the lone person in the wide receiver room, and you've got some flexibility there. But again, you've got to find a willing trade partner. I think you need the capital this year so you can do it with the coach, and you got to consider the cap hit.
I was going to say real quickly, like you mentioned with you're an odds maker there, Bauer. When you asked Bo about what coach he would put his money on, we all got $20. Besides the Bears, you're thinking Ravens. Who are you putting your money on for DeAndre Hopkins to play his next regular season snap?
New England. Patriots.
New England?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Unless Cliff Kingsbury ends up in New England.
Break whenever.
So caveat.
Okay, I'm going to go Packers. Just because I think if Rodgers stays, they got a lot of young receivers they can get rid of. Hopkins could be that new Devontae Adams for Rodgers.
If we're looking at a potential trade, let's look to last year. Great wide receiver, arguably one of the best in the NFL. Not anywhere near as good as Nuke Hopkins, but Amari Cooper last year, the Browns sent 2 5s and swapped 6-round picks with the Cowboys. Now, there was savings there. The Cowboys saved about $16 million on the number, but that's what you're looking at. So don't come talking about a first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe not even a second-round pick. You absolutely fleeced the Texans when you made that Hopkins trade. Guess what? He's going to be 31 and 32 the next 2 years of his career. So you're talking about, again, last year, the Browns sent 2 5s and a 6th swap. That's probably closer to what you're going to get for Nuke Hopkins than a first or a second.
Hey, coming up next, your chance to get online and make picks against our resident. What is he? He's our resident TV guy that makes good picks.
Right. He's our resident guy who's going to give you a freaking huge TV.
$50 gift certificate and your chance to win a 75-inch 4K smart TV. That's coming up next on Fox Sports 910.
Points, powered by the Sportsbook at CAZ Sports Bar in Casino, Arizona, exclusively on Fox Sports 910.
Welcome back. Rolling along here on a Saturday morning. It's the calm before the storm at CAZ Sports Bar. They're getting ready. 2 big games today in the super wild card weekend. Soggy, Santa Clara, California, apparently, and then Jacksonville for the nightcap. But regular listeners to the program know this is the time where you dial in for your chance to win a $50 gift card to Best Deal AZ, and your chance to win a big TV at the end of the season.
A 75-inch 4K HD smart TV. Let's go.
Jeff Hoodsout joins us now. Super wild card weekends means super wild TV deals for you down there at Best Deal AZ, Jeff.
Geez, Mike, are you just going to jack all my lines that I've been working on? I've been preparing all these one-liners.
I read it right off your email that we get every week. It's all credit to you guys.
So it's technically his line just from a few days ago.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Boys, are you guys excited for football or what? Because I'm excited for football.
I love the energy from Jeff we already got here. I love it. Hell yeah, we are.
Well, I'm selling TVs all morning. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew, ready to make some picks and not give away any money. I've been giving away a lot of money to you guys.
Hey, Jeff, let's take a look at the games and let's give away some money, right? Let's just go ahead and do that. We'll just give away some money, make our listeners happy. The way it works, 602-260-9191. That's the number to call, 602-260-9191. You can call in now, register your picks with our guy Ryan behind the glass. He's going to hook you up. He's going to put your info down, and you're going to get a $50 gift certificate just for playing. You're also going to be entered to win that 75-inch 4K smart TV from Best Deal in town. Their website, bestdealaz.com, to check out all their great deals. And as we do, we sign up for the newsletter. We get the deals sent to us every week, so I highly recommend doing that. But Zal, let's look to our alma mater off a big 17-point win at the beautiful court in Eugene. I love that court. They're going up the road or down the road, whatever. They're going down or up. They're driving on a road to Corvallis. They're going to Oregon State. ASU hoops -8.5 at Oregon State. Some college hoops. What do you think, Zal?
Okay, I actually have stats. You ready?
Let's go.
Ready for this? ASU is 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 Saturday games. Oregon State is 1-10-1 against the spread in their last 12 Saturday games. I'm a big math guy, so we're going ASU. We're going laying the points. We're going ASU.
There you go. He's got the Devils -8.5. Good luck to you if you're going up against him. Again, 602-260-9191 is the number to play. $50 gift certificate is yours if you're the first caller. Chargers this evening, -2.5. This is the tied for the Monday night game, is the closest spread of the weekend. Chargers at the Jaguars. What do you think about this Saturday night game?
So when it comes to football, I go Manalytics, not analytics. And I really think the Chargers, I could see the Chargers winning. I could see the Chargers going to the Super Bowl. And I love Jacksonville. They're, feel-good story. Anytime that you get away from Urban Meyer, it's a pretty good day. But give me the Superchargers laying the points. What's that, 2.5, 3.5, something like that?
2.5 is what you're getting. So you're getting the Chargers -2.5. All right, the G-Men at the Vikings. You got an over-under of 48, but the Vikings are 3-point favorites at the bank there in Minnesota. Giants at the Vikes.
Giants are going to be my pick. We got a banged-up offensive line for the Vikings. And, the Vikings are frauds, so I like to bet against frauds, not for frauds. So give me the G-Men.
The G-Men, the New York Football Giants. By the way, if you call them, that's the actual, when you call, you have reached the New York Football Giants Football Club. The Cowboys -2.5 at Tommy.
I grew up a Giants fan in New Jersey, and I had 2 favorite teams as a child. It was the Giants and whoever's playing the Cowboys. Give me touchdown Tommy. I watched The Town last night a little bit. I got a little excited about the whole Boston stuff. I like touchdown Tommy. And I think the Cowboys, Dak Prescott is the worst quarterback in the playoffs right now, and I want the winner. I want Tom Brady.
I mean, that's interesting. One of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL, the worst in the playoffs right now. There you go. He's got ASU, Chargers, Giants, Bucks. If you want a chance to beat that, 602-260-9191. You're entered for a $50 gift certificate to Best Deal in Town. If you win that and you don't want it, just give it to me because I need a sound bar, and I could use your gift certificate, so please call in. But, hey, guess what? You're also entered to win that season-long prize, the 75-inch 4K Smart TV from Best Deal in Town, bestdealaz.com. Zal, thank you for joining us, and happy belated birthday to your daughter, because I know that's why you couldn't join us last week.
Hey, I appreciate that. Lila loves you guys. She sees pictures of you online and says, "Who's the funny man?" And I say, "Oh, that's Uncle Mike."
I'm pretty sure she said funny looking, but okay.
Yeah, at least I'm not the funny guy.
Yeah.
You're the funny guy.
Same thing, boys. Have a good one.
You too, bro.
And there you go, Jeff Pudzell.
I appreciate Jeff coming in and making the picks with us. That's going to about do it for our number one. Actually, let me look at the clock because I went way. Brian was so mad.
We got 2 minutes.
I was way over. I just talking and talking.
Well, math is hard.
No, watching a clock and talking. Interesting.
Well, Ryan's probably busy right now because he's answered the phone. 602-260-9191. First caller, you get a $50 gift certificate to Best Deal in Town and enter to win that 75-inch TV.
Interesting ASU, and we'll talk about it more in hour number 2, particularly when we do our picks. I was listening to Tim Healy the other night on the broadcast. He's like, this is the best start for ASU basketball since James Harden's first year at ASU or something like that.
Well, I mean, they were number 3 in the country a few years ago. Undefeated in the calendar year.
Going to argue with Tim
I'm
Healy.
just saying that was
basketball.
the point guard year. They went and they beat Kansas in Lawrence, Tim. Maybe
They're having a pretty good year this year. And Joe Lunardi, last week, Joe Lunardi had them out and not even close.
Okay.
And finally, with the win Thursday night, an impressive win in Eugene, he moved them to playing in Dayton again. I don't know what it is with the Pac. Maybe it's a Pac-12 thing because I don't think it's ASU. There's only 2 teams in the field of 64, Arizona and UCLA.
Joe Lunardi has one of the most probably interesting, fun jobs in the whole world.
Oh, it's fascinating.
He just has to come up with a bracket every single night. Oh, who won today? Okay, I'm going to switch him from a 3 to a 4.
Move him up, move him down.
Move him up, move him down, and everyone watches it, and then right when it comes around March time is when he gets all of his TV hits.
If you're keeping score at home, it's Arizona State and Memphis from Dayton when the tournament starts. We'll get into more of that in hour number 2. Jackson Groff, Mike Gross, Mike Bauer, step aside here. We'll be back hour number 2 right around the corner on Fox Sports 910.
I sent you one.
Local sports gambling radio show. Take the points. Powered by the Sportsbook at CAZ Sports Bar in Casino, Arizona. Your home for uncensored sports betting opinions, analysis, and advice. The guys have you covered for all the games. Now, take the points on Fox Sports 910 and the iHeartRadio app.
You're live.
Hour number 2. Mike Bauer, Mike Gross, Jackson Groff from the CAZ Sports Bar, Casino, Arizona. Come on out and hang out with us. We're here till 1 o'clock, and then they're ready to go. NFL Super Wild Card Weekend will take center stage here. Early game today, the Seahawks and the 49ers. The nightcap, Chargers and the Jaguars. And they got all the games covered throughout the course of the rest of the weekend. So come on out, CAZ Sports Bar, Casino, Arizona, Loop 101 and McKellips. Guys, something caught my eye when we were getting ready to do this show. We talk about sports gambling, wagering. That's what we do. And we talked at the beginning of the year about win totals. Like, who do you like? I took the Jaguars, cashed a big ticket.
Ooh,
That'd be lucky.
There you
good.
go. I also took the Cardinals, and they won me money. That was very nice. Thank you very much, Cardinals, for being terrible at football. Great for my wallet.
So our good friend Jimmy Shapiro sent us an email today, or this week sometime anyways. He took a look at the closing odds right before the first kickoff of the year.
All right, Jimmy.
For the win totals for all the teams in the National Football League. 16 teams went over their posted win totals this year, and 14 teams went under the posted win totals, and there were 2 pushes, the Ravens and the Commanders. These teams overachieved their win totals the most. The Eagles by 4.5.
That's good news for Jimmy, big Eagles guy.
Kansas City by 3.5. Minnesota by 3.5. San Francisco by 3.5. And Seattle by 3.5.
A little overachievers right there.
So
All right.
what were the original lines at for each of those? Does it say it on there or no?
I don't have that.
Seattle's is probably like a 5. I'm assuming 5 or 6.
If you're looking at Seattle going into the season was 5.5 and obviously the overhit on that one. I won't bore you with the rest of them.
Okay, cool.
So, the couple of them, the Seahawks to me, that one, when you think about how this season was, this was a team that everybody had pegged for last place.
Yes, yeah. People thought that was essentially Dead Man Walking Football Club because you were talking about Geno Smith, who up until this year has been essentially just the butt of many quarterback football jokes. And you had Drew Lock in terms of the guys that you got. You got him and Noah Fant in the trade for Russell Wilson. So clearly they were way over the 5.5. On the other side of the coin, though, I'm guessing the Denver Broncos at 9.5 were one of the bigger under teams.
It's funny you should mention these
I was
teams
just trying to set you up,
underachieved
bud. I know
their
you're
posted
ready.
win total. The Colts by 5.5.
Okay.
The Rams by 5.5.
Well, defending champs, they were terrible.
The Cardinals by 4.5. Oof. The Broncos by 4.5.
There you go.
And the Buccaneers by 3.5. And the Buccaneers, if I'm reading this correctly, the only team on that list that underachieved and still qualified for the postseason, and actually are playing a home game on Monday night against the Dallas Cowboys. But I think that's more of a commentary on that division than anything else.
Yeah.
But not surprising. When you talk about underachieving, I don't know. There was a lot of mixed feelings with the Cardinals, but the Broncos. I mean, this is a team that everybody said, look, the AFC West, the best division in football, and Russell Wilson's going to be the key that pushes this team. All they've been missing is a quarterback, and it's kind of the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick conversation. Was it the coach or the quarterback? And, say what you about, the quarterback play in Seattle. Give Pete Carroll some love while you're at it, because he saw what other people didn't say and said, look, let him go. We'll take that first-round draft pick. We qualified for the playoffs, and guess what? We're picking top 5. So thank you very much, Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I think the Rams are surprising, but I think the Broncos are even more surprising than the Rams just because of what came into the season with Russell Wilson, with how dynamic this offense looked on paper and defensively. This defense looked
really
explosive. They had Bradley Chubb right before the deadline when they traded him. But when you look at it, the Rams obviously struggled with injuries offensively, offensive line and defensive line. That was kind of like the key thing of their season, tanking this year. But when it comes to the Broncos, they had pretty much everyone healthy. They had Russell Wilson. They had Nathaniel Hackett, who thought it was going to be a good relationship, and it just came it came to bust. They didn't play well this season, and they had a lot of guys that were actually healthy. They just couldn't get things clicking offensively. I read something that if they were to score offensively at least 18 points each game, I believe it would be like 9-1, I believe it was, in the first 10 games of this regular season. So Broncos got a lot to build on. We'll see if they can get Sean Payton, but I've heard Jim Harbaugh is the leading candidate for that job.
It'd be interesting to see what happens there. Now, Denver, in terms of draft capital, you alluded to it, Gross, that it's part of that Russell Wilson trade was their number one, which is now the 5th overall pick going to Seattle. So Seattle playing a playoff game today, sitting with the number 5 pick in the draft. If you take a look at that, that's also, in addition to their own, which right now would be right around the 20th pick or so. But you got Chicago, Houston, there's Arizona at 3, Indianapolis. Those are all football teams that were awful this year. Seattle and Detroit, one's in the playoffs, the other just barely missed the playoffs at 5 and 6 atop the draft board there. And that's what's going to make for a very interesting draft season is you have some teams that don't necessarily need to address immediate needs that are right near the top of the draft because of trades they've made. Hell, Philly has the number 10 pick in the draft as well. So it's going to be an interesting next few weeks or few months in terms of taking a few weeks for the playoffs, but a few months for the draft just because you got those good playoff caliber teams atop the draft board.
Going back to something Jackson touched on a minute ago with the Rams, I think if you look at those teams that underachieved or teams that aren't in the playoffs and you look at the luck factor or injury factor, because a lot of that is what happens in the National Football League. Teams that had the most man games lost due to injury this year, they're all out of the playoffs, and a lot of them are on the list we just talked about. The Cardinals, the Rams, the Broncos all really hit hard by the injury bug. The Cardinals and the Broncos with over 300 man games lost due to injury this season. The Rams right around 250. So injury and luck play a big part of it, and you're absolutely right when you brought that up, Jackson.
Yeah.
And we talk about that a lot. You go back to 2009 when the Cardinals made the Super Bowl. Who played on that offensive line? You could get if we gave each other enough time, you could come up with
Levi Brown,
Deuce Latui.
You could come up with the names, right? But it's not like 5 guys that are walking into Canton, Ohio anytime.
Was Lyle Sendline?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah,
they missed one man game on their offensive line that year. So whatever else the Arizona Cardinals were, they got luck a lot of different places.
Mike Gandy, Reggie Wells, Lyle Sendline, Deuce Latui, and Levi Brown. Let's go. You had 4 of those guys started 16 games that year.
Yeah, you had one guy that missed one game that year, and whatever else. Like I said, the Cardinals that year that thrilled this city. Luck was a big part of it. The guys staying healthy. And, of course, the fact that NFC Championship game was played in their stadium. But that goes into it, right? You look at that. But at the same time, it's a results game. And, Michael Bidwell's not going to say, well, Cliff Kingsbury lost over 300 man games due to injury, so we'll keep him around. Hackett's not going to stay in Denver because he lost more than that, right?
Yeah.
You are in a results business, and you've got to figure it out.
And you look at teams like there's teams out there, guys, that were in the NFL this year that had a lot of injuries that prevailed, that coached well in moments where they had to fill in some gaps. Like
Brock Purdy is playing quarterback today.
Exactly, the 49ers. Or 49ers who are known for getting an injury bug every single season find a way to get into the playoffs.
Deebo Samuel's banged up, and they're on their 3rd string quarterback, and they're hosting a football game today.
I was going to mention the Lions. How about Jamal Williams stepping in when DeAndre Swift was hurt, breaking Barry Sanders' rushing touchdown for a regular season for the Lions? They step in, they were 1-6, and they finished the season 9-8. That's a team. Whatever you want to think about Brandon Staley and the Chargers, what they've done.
I think a lot about Brandon Staley and the Chargers.
I understand what happened with Mike Williams, but the fact that they're in the playoffs with the amount of defensive injuries they've had, I think is something that you got to look into. Brandon Staley down the line.
Hey, so since you bring up Brandon Staley, does he keep his job? If they lose today, is he a possible? Now we've seen this happen in the NFL before, where coaches actually make it into the playoffs. Is Brandon Staley 100% the coach of the Chargers next year, or is Sean Payton an option?
How did Brandon Staley keep his job after last year?
That's a very good question.
How did he keep his job after last year?
But here we are, they're in the playoffs.
I can't excuse what happened last year. And so if I don't even know who owns and controls the Chargers, and that might be part of the problem.
That is.
But I am not a Brandon Staley fan, so whatever the question is related to him staying, it's a no for me.
As a Cardinals fan, I'm hoping he stays. But realistically, as an analyst, when I look back, I think he's gone. I think Sean Payton goes to the Chargers because that's the most intriguing locker room out of all of them. The culture, quarterback, defense, they got it all.
The
But Sean
Chargers
Payton
owners are the Spanos family, and there's a mess going on right there.
And Sean Payton said, how is the front office and ownership operating? The Chargers situation is setting up to unfold to make the Broncos' recent ownership change, which was about as ugly as it gets for a storied franchise, look like it's a small world at Disneyland. Like this situation in San Diego or Los Angeles, and they should be in San Diego, and I'll keep saying it, is going to be
song.
It's
San
going
Diego
to be
Superchargers.
one of the worst ever. Family members suing family members.
Yep.
It's ugly,
It's
and
a
the
mess.
Charger fans are going to be right in the middle of it. We'll step aside here. On the other side, we're going to run through some college basketball. I know it's football season, and we're going to get to Marco at the bottom of the hour, but we got the big screens on all around us. And let's talk a little bit of college basketball coming up next on Fox Sports 910.
Powered by the Sportsbook at CAC Sports Bar in Casino, Arizona. Exclusively on Fox Sports 910.
Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to the Narrow, but I'll be hood forever. I'm the new
NFL wildcard weekend getting ready to start in a couple of hours. College basketball all over the TVs here at the CAZ Sports Bar. Welcome back. Bauer Groff taking up to 1 o'clock today. Marco D'Angelo in about 15 minutes or so. Stick around for that one. But, guys, I walked in early this morning and went over to the say good morning to the guys at the Sportsbook. 6 pages. I only picked one because there's so much paper wasted. I'll let you look at it. But 6 pages of college basketball games
It's
available
got a staple in it.
today.
There's a staple in the college basketball odds.
It's thick. It's heavy.
Golly.
It's heavy. But it is college basketball, and that's how you know. It's kind of like summer goes to fall to winter to spring. Football season's starting to fade away, unfortunately, and it's going to be basketball season front and center. So I figured we'd start that conversation.
What are the Tennessee? Number 5 Tennessee is playing Kentucky right now. Kentucky is currently winning by 4 with 1:30 left in the game. Gross. What are the odds for that game?
That one went off at Tennessee by 11.5.
Whoa.
And the total on that one was 131. So there you go.
Damn.
Looking pretty good there. In overtime right now, number 16 Miami at NC State there in Raleigh. Number 16 Miami currently trailing by a point, 82-81 with just about 22 seconds to play in that one. DePaul Seton Hall just went final. Seton Hall 71, DePaul 67. Oklahoma getting a 1-point win over West Virginia 77-76. And just some tremendous matchups later today. A big day of college basketball. Kansas State, TCU, they just tipped off. That's a couple top 20 teams.
Yep.
TCU 13-3 on the year. Kansas State, the Wildcats. Little shout out to Dan Minucci's Emaw Cats.
I wanted to talk about them real quick, too.
I was going to give the score, though. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
It's 11-8 early in that game with Kansas State beating TCU in Fort Worth. All right, Jackson, what's up?
Well, I was going to say their top player, Keontae Johnson. Now, for those who know who Keontae Johnson is, he's averaging 18 and 7. He's the player, I believe it was 2 years ago, that collapsed on the court. He played for Florida, bounces back, and is having a tremendous season, 18 and 7. It's great to see him not only come back to basketball, but come at his top form, best season of his career so far.
Keeping things local college basketball-wise, Arizona State and Oregon State coming up at 2 o'clock this afternoon. You heard Jeff Hoodzow give his prediction on that one, and we'll do ours in the final segment of the show. That's one of the 4 games we're picking this week. Arizona State in Corvallis, they're 9-point favorites over Oregon State. And according to Joe Lunardi, every basketball game from here on out that ASU plays is important, apparently. And then later on this afternoon from Eugene, the Arizona Wildcats, they are 4-point favorites over the Oregon Ducks, as Arizona had a bad loss last weekend against Washington State. Seemed to inspire them a little bit as they embarked on their trip to the great state of Oregon this weekend.
You know, you mentioned Oregon. Tubelis with 25. Number 9, Arizona beats Oregon State a couple days ago. You mentioned they're taking on Oregon. ASU, that win over Oregon, 17-point win. First 5-1 start in the Pac-12 since 1980-81. Basketball aside, I got to ask you guys, what do you guys think about the court at the mat? Come on now. The Oregon court, I know it's very polarizing. What do you guys think? Do you like the court with all the trees all over the place, or no? This has nothing to do with basketball. Just with the actual
the University of Oregon.
Of course, yeah. At the mat, the old MAC.
I mean, I'm always a fan of trying something different.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look too bad. I don't mind it.
I just know I know it's very polar because the other day people were ASU Twitter was going off and talking about the court's terrible, and I'm like, guys, look, I love the court up there. Big fan of the court. I think we need to get more of that going on in basketball. Let's have some fun with the court, guys.
Football legislated it out, but did you ever make the trip to Eastern Washington?
The red turf,
awful.
That gave me a headache when I looked at that thing.
Terrible looking, terrible quality, terrible team. Everything about it. Small town.
Back when
terrible venue.
weren't
terrible turf.
I'll let you
terrible
go with the
color.
turf, but it's not a terrible team.
Yeah, come on now. I mean, were they?
Eastern
They
Washington
were
Really?
like 2-10 this year.
this year, but when you were rolling through there, they were good.
Are they?
fill off.
Are they apparently a rivalry with your Montana Grizzlies? Is
Not
that,
really,
Is that why
no.
you're saying all these
They're
terrible things?
an in-conference rival, but their field is hideous. Any red field is hideous. I'm sorry. Red field? No.
Well, and they did that, because obviously they kicked it all off in Boise with the Smurf turf up there.
Yeah.
And then you've got a few others, Eastern Washington, notably with that red field. And I'm
Central
serious.
Arkansas has the
Yeah.
purple and silver.
But I'm serious. When we went there, I was standing above. When you look down into the field, it hurt my eyes. It was a sunny day, and I was like, "Good Lord, you have to get used to this." And of course, the NCAA legislated it out. Don't blame the NCAA. Blame the NCAA coaches. That's who makes the rules for college football. But I'm with you. I don't like the red turf at all. But I don't mind.
I love the court at the MAC. The MAC, the mat. Obviously they've kind of changed a little bit over the years. But as we look at the Pac-12, guys, UCLA coming to town on Thursday to take on the Sun Devils. They are the number 7 team in the country. They're a perfect 6-0 in the conference. They're atop the leaderboard, 15-2 overall. They're taking on the Colorado Buffaloes today. ASU technically second in the conference, 5-1 in Pac-12. 14-3 overall for the Sun Devils. That 5-1 record, though, of course, any Wildcat fan will tell you, their number 9 Arizona Wildcats, who are sitting at 4-2 in the conference. That one loss for the Sun Devils is to Arizona. Devils got smacked around earlier this year, or technically at the end of last year. Last day there in Tempe. Utah sitting there at 5-2 in conference, 12-6 overall. But right now, only 2 ranked teams in the conference. It's UCLA and Arizona, the true blue bloods of hoops in the conference.
Well, and as I mentioned a moment ago, Joe Lenardi, and I think you can call him an expert. He's got ASU now in the play-in game, so their win the other night really helped their situation. But you can read in between the lines that every game important for the Devils. And I was surprised when I heard that because I thought the resume was looking good. That loss to Arizona, I get it, but Arizona is, that's Arizona basketball. I understand the rivalry, but that's not a bad loss in terms of your NCAA resume.
Losing by 37 points to San Francisco.
That was a bad loss.
That's a bad loss.
That was a really bad loss.
That was embarrassing.
Arizona, if I'm an Arizona fan, my thing with them is you look at the 2 teams they lost to. I think Utah's okay. Washington State at home to lose to. Yeah. Arizona's problem is, can coach keep them interested long enough to get to the tournament? This is a team that the 2 games they lost, if you go back and watch it, they look disinterested. And I get it on the one hand, but you play relatively a short college basketball season. You got to be ready to go every night. But you look at their loss to Utah, it was an ugly double-digit loss. You look at their loss to Washington State at home, even worse in my opinion. So how does he keep them interested and engaged down the stretch? It's easy to say, oh, you're playing UCLA, oh, you're playing your rival ASU. That's fine. But how do you keep them engaged for these games that will hurt you? Because they fell off the one line. Joe Lenardi had them on the top line, and that loss to Washington State, I'm surprised they didn't fall further.
Yeah, let's see how these teams play when it comes down to late February, early March. These games matter, yes, but once everyone's attention's off of football, that'll be the time where college basketball becomes more relevant, becomes more every game means something as we head into the tournament, conference tournaments, and March Madness.
Now, guys, there's a couple big football games today, right? We got the NFL playoffs, no big deal. You may have heard of it, and this may be one of the best places on the planet to watch the games, right here at the CAZ Sports Bar, because you can just walk right up, make your bets, watch the game on these monster TVs. But you know what else is going on at the same time? That Arizona-Oregon game. And the reason why I'm mentioning Arizona-Oregon is because it's always just a wonderful and beautiful thing. Another polarizing thing to a lot of people. Some people don't like this man, but he is a national treasure. Dave Passion, Bill Walton calling the game. Give me Bill Walton
all day.
Games anytime I possibly can get him. He's going to wax poetic about the Willamette Valley. He's going to talk about the cacti down in Tucson, and looking forward to that. Our everybody's good friend Dave Pash here in Phoenix, the voice of the Cardinals, and he and Bill Walton, a tremendous combo on that game. So you got to love that. ESPN, 4 o'clock tip time from the Matthew Knight Arena in Eugene, Arizona. About 4-point favorite?
Yeah, 4-point favorite for Arizona. Bill Walton did an interview on a chair that the art department at the University of Arizona created for him because of his back issues. And
Well,
he's got
because he was
chairs.
grabbing
A
he was
hotel
grabbing a
chair.
stool from the Aloft Hotel down
the
at
fact-
U of A for years.
The fact that he can give a full-on, detailed interview about a new chair, I agree with you. He's a national treasure.
He is a
Speaking
gem.
of treasures for our show,
Oh,
we'll
good. Oh,
step
good.
aside, and on the other, we'll head up to Las Vegas to visit with our good friend Marco D'Angelo. He's going to pick a couple of games for us. That's coming up next on Fox Sports 910.
Sports Bar's resident handicapper, Marco D'Angelo of WagerTalk.com, joins us now on Fox Sports 910.
Regular listeners know it's that time of the week. We head up to Las Vegas and welcome back our resident handicapper, a good friend from WagerTalk.com, Marco D'Angelo. Marco!
So loud.
So loud.
sorry.
Besides that, how you doing, Marco?
See, he likes it. He's laughing.
Laughing at you.
I got to see that in person sometime.
It's terrifying.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Make that happen.
There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, Marco. Hey, Marco.
I feel like Marco would know his way around the casino since we're at one.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
Marco, NFL playoffs are upon us. It's the best time of the year, super wild card weekend. And we've got games beginning here in a little bit on a Saturday afternoon, taking us all the way up to Monday night. And you're here to break down a couple of them for us. We'll start off with an interesting matchup this evening. In all places, Jacksonville, Florida. Apparently, they have officially washed the Urban Meyer experiment out of their systems. The Jacksonville Jaguars are in the playoffs. They're playing a home game, and they've got the Los Angeles Chargers in town, despite the head coach of the Chargers doing his best to screw things up. Chargers, 2.5-point favorite. What do you got on that one, Marco?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, guys. And one thing that's interesting about this week's playoff games, all 6 of the playoff games are all at least a second meeting. Some of them are a third meeting. And I don't know that that's ever happened in the NFL playoffs before, that all of the games were that way. Interesting game here because these two met back on week 3. Obviously, back on week 3, the Chargers, they were depleted with injuries. If you remember that game, Justin Herbert had banged up ribs. Probably should not have played that game, but as you just, led into the game, their coach might not be the brightest bulb in the building, but they played him. They had offensive line injuries, and what happened? Jacksonville rolled them 38-10. So before you jump on the bandwagon and say, well, okay, now the Chargers are playing much better. They've got most of the pieces back, but they lost one last week, a big one. This is a spot where you would think the Chargers would get revenge. And anybody that watched last week's game saw that Jacksonville was lucky to win that game. I was on Tennessee in that game. I enjoyed them dominating for almost the entire game until one play turned the game and got them a win. But what I'm going to say is Jacksonville is playing better football the second half of the season too. Remember, that was week 3. Trevor Lawrence was on his 3rd different offense in 3 years. As you said, the Urban Meyer experiment didn't work out. The year before that, he was still in college. So, in comes Peterson with the, new offense. And it took time for Jacksonville to learn everything and get used to it. They're playing great football now. And, yes, they looked bad last week. Why? Because I looked at last week's game when I handicapped it and said, this is, in essence, a playoff game. You had the two teams. It was winner take all was going to the playoffs. And I think that gives him a leg up in this one. And I'm talking about Trevor Lawrence. First-year quarterbacks in the playoffs generally do not fare well. And granted, technically, they're both their first playoff game, but I really do think last week's game is going to give Trevor Lawrence confidence, and that's a leg up. And I don't trust this Charger defense. I know down the stretch, they had a 4-game stretch there in that winning streak where they held 4 straight opponents to 17 points or less. They beat a banged-up Miami team that we saw has not been able to score the last 3 weeks. They beat a Tennessee team that we just saw last week, can't score either. And then they beat Indianapolis. I don't even have to say anything about them. And then they beat the Rams, who have been up and down all year. I'm not sold on them. I think Jacksonville's going to score, but I do think the Chargers will as well. So I'm going to actually give you 2 plays this week. I'm going with Jacksonville to get the win. I got Jacksonville 31-24. But add that up, guys. That's 55 points. The total's sitting at 47.5. And I'm going to go over the total as well.
Ooh.
Wow. Okay. So,
Underdog.
wow. Okay. We're getting, that's, you know what that is? That's bonus right there. That's a bonus action. Jacksonville 31-24-55 is the quick math on that. That gives you the over. That really bums me out because I really want to watch Trevor Lawrence lose. But let's move on to our next game. And this is definitely not the first playoff game for this quarterback in terms of Tommy touchdown at home. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tommy hosting Dak Prescott, Dakota Prescott, and the Cowboys on the road in Tampa. Marco, what do you see on Monday Night Football?
Well, guys, this is a tough one because you've got two narratives here. You broke it down very well about Tom Brady, and we know, the history with Tom Brady. But with the exception of the Carolina game where he suddenly threw for 400 yards in that one and got them the win they needed, that was the game they needed. What has he done this year? He has struggled. This team has not scored points. That concerns me. They've scored 23 or fewer points in 15 of their 17 games. Now, the flip side to that is we know that Dallas has been a turnover machine. We got Mike McCarthy strolling the sidelines over there. That's not a good thing to have either. But even when they turn the football over, minus last week, which I know a lot of people are putting too much emphasis on that game last week against Washington. I know they were still alive to win the division, but that would have meant that Philadelphia, a 2-touchdown favorite, was going to have to lose at home to the Giants, who had nothing to play for. It wasn't going to happen. And I think Dallas, once they saw Philly jump out to the early lead, that was the end of Dallas for that game. You look at the rest of their games, this team scores points. Now, they've been giving up points as well, but the points they've been giving up is because they keep shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers. I don't see Tampa Bay being able to trade points in this game. And I know it's tough to give Tom Brady points at home in a playoff game, but guys, even GOATs grow old. I'm sorry. Father Time is undefeated. All right. I'm going to go with Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy to get this job done. And I've got them winning by 7. I've got it 27-20. So it's slightly over the total, but I'm not going to go there because this is one of those ones, guys. If we've ever talked about it, and it's something that you can see in one of our videos that we do in Betting 101, a thing called a correlated parlay. If you like Dallas in this game, you're going to gravitate to the over. If you like Tampa in this game, you're going to gravitate to the under because Tampa, to win this game, has to have it in a low-scoring game. If Dallas is going to win this game, more than likely it'll be a higher-scoring game.
He's Marco D'Angelo. Follow him on Twitter at Marco in Vegas, and the website, he just mentioned it there, wagertalk.com. Hey, Marco, real quickly before we let you get out, one of the games that we didn't talk about coming up, the early one here today, and it looks like, among other things, weather is going to be a real factor. Yeah. It has been in Northern California for the last couple of weeks. How does that factor into the way you would look at a game? I mean, it's one thing to say it might be snowing or raining, but this has been pretty impactful weather up there in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it is. And what you want to look at is situation is I always gravitate to the better defense in bad weather. That's the one constant that you want to have. The teams are already going to have trouble scoring because, of field conditions and rain and so forth. So first thing I look at is who's got the better defense. Well, that's clear. It's San Francisco. Mm-hmm. The second thing that I would look for is if you don't think they're going to be able to pass the ball because of the weather, you want to take the stronger running team. Now, Seattle at times has been very good running the football this year, but they're going to be going against the best rush defense in the NFL. And then there's a guy named Christian McCaffrey over on the sidelines there for the 49ers. And everybody's in love with Brock Purdy. But honestly, to me, the defense and Christian McCaffrey has been the difference of this team. Brock Purdy's just managing the ship. Christian McCaffrey opens things up for him because of everything that he can do. He is a true running back, which the 49ers have had success running the football, but they've done it kind of gimmicky, last year with Deebo Samuels, lining up in odd positions and so forth. He gives them a true running back that not only can run the football, but he has got great hands out of the backfield catching the pass. That presents a lot of matchup problems for teams. And if your passing game, one last other thing to look at, again, another big check mark for San Francisco is if you're going to have to dump the ball off, who has the better pass receiving running backs and tight end? Okay, again, check mark San Francisco.
There we go. Marco, as always, good stuff. Bonus coverage there from Marco D'Angelo. Didn't even ask him. He did that on the fly. Marco, always appreciate your time, and we look forward to doing it again next week.
All right, guys, have a good one, and let's cash some tickets.
Marco D'Angelo. Follow him on Twitter at Marco in Vegas, and the website, one more time, wagertalk.com. Real quickly, I got a text from somebody.
Whoa, who?
I gave the ASU, I gave the Arizona. How about this? Northern Arizona and Sacramento State. From Sacramento, the Hornets a 9-point favorite over the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks.
Oh.
That game tips off at 3 p.m. Arizona time. How about that?
Tremendous.
We are self-service. We're like top 40 radio. You got a request? Hit us up.
I mean, if you want, seriously, because that is 6 pages of NCAA odds that you have for hoops in your hand with the staple that you got right here at the CAZ Sportsbook.
Paper cuts.
Gotta love it.
Hey, we'll step aside one more time. On the other side, among other things, we'll make our picks. And you're going to make us do Super Bowl picks?
We got to. Come on, we got to make we have to do our
We have
Super Bowl
like
predictions.
we have like 4 weeks to do that.
This is the only time we can do it because wild card starts at 2:30. We got to do it today.
I'm going to channel my inner Desmond Howard.
Ooh,
so you're going to take Pitt? You're going to
Like
like
Texas A&M
yeah.
Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl.
Baylor.
We'll do that next on Fox Sports 910.
back to Take the Points, powered by the Sportsbook at CAC Sports Bar in Casino, Arizona, exclusively on Fox Sports 910.
Me, still the same OG, but I've been low key, hated on by most these with no cheese.
I knew they were bad this year. I just pulled up Louisville Cardinals schedule. They're 2-15.
It's not good.
We don't need to talk about Louisville.
They're 2-15.
Like Syracuse. We don't need to talk about
Western Kentucky and Florida A&M, the lone wins on the Cardinal schedule. Hey, breaking news there, Jackson. Peter Schrager reporting.
I forgot. You had to remind him of the thing he was telling us.
Peter Schrager reporting.
All right. According to Bo Brock at Bo Brock on Twitter, Peter Schrager says on Fox Sports today on the NFL Fox Sunday show, but it's on Saturday, former Arizona Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury bought a one-way ticket to Thailand and is telling any interested teams he's not interested in returning to at the moment. One-way ticket, huh? That's crazy.
That's awesome. I wish I had that amount of ridiculous disposable income to do that, because here's the thing. He's living my dream right now, is to just go and travel and have it free and open-ended. He's going to go to Thailand, and then when he's in Thailand, because he's just rich and stays at like some 5-star resort or whatever, he's going to just say, you know what I want to do from here? Where do I want to go? I'll choose my own adventure.
My visual is different. My visual is different than that, though.
He's just spending Michael Bidwell's money in Thailand right now.
He's on his way to Thailand, first class ticket, thanks to Michael Bidwell.
100%.
But he's got
that reclining seat.
He's got a backpack, and he's like in a hut on a beach. And in 6 or 7 months, he's going to come back into civilization. He's going to have the beard is going to be all grown out, the hair all grown out, and his ripped shorts after just finding himself for 6 months on a beach somewhere, and then figure out what he wants to do. Again, thank you to Michael Bidwell.
Thank
you very much.
He's flying there right now. So you go to Thailand, and then you're like, well, what do I want to do from here? I don't know. I've never been to Singapore. Let's go there. All right, let's go to Hong Kong after this. Let's go to Kuala Lumpur after this. What are we going to do next? I've never been to Australia. Let's just go putz around Australia for a few days. Come on now.
Hey, Michael Bidwell, here's where you send the next paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Cliff, if you need someone to watch your house during this whole trip, let me know. I'll watch your house.
That's very helpful of you.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's very good.
We got to do some picks, and I got to get this back on the winning ways. I've been off for the last couple of weeks, so it's my chance to get it. And then we'll do our Super Bowl predictions. What 2 teams do we see playing in the big game coming up in February? But Bauer, let's go. Let's do our picks quickly, and we'll get to the Super Bowl.
That's right. 602-260-9191 is your number to get in if you want to make your pick against Jeff Hoodzow. If you get in right now, first caller is entered to win a $50 gift certificate, you win a $50 gift certificate, and you're entered to win a 75-inch 4K smart TV. Jeff Hoodzow's picks, he got ASU, the Chargers, the Giants, and the Bucks. So we're going to pick those games right now, and if you're the first caller, you get to pick those games as well. 602-260-9191. Hardcourt Devils coming off the big win at the Mat. They're on the road in Corvallis. ASU at Oregon State, -8.5 for the Devils. Over and under 111. Jackson, start us off.
Give me ASU. I'm laying the points. This team's on fire right now, 14-3 this season, and they will continue the firing streak.
After the 17-point win in Eugene, the Sun Devils 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 games away from home. They're 7-2 at home, are the Corvallis home-based Beavers, but they're coming off a loss to Arizona, and they've lost 4 straight. Give me the Devils covering the spread. I have such a lead in our picks. I get to be a homer. Go Devils.
I have no lead in this contest, but ASU needs every win now, and I think Bobby Hurley's got their attention. And you mentioned it, Bauer. That was just a dreadful loss to San Francisco around the holidays. They've got no room for error. They've got to win and this is a winnable game. ASU, 8.5? That doesn't bother me at all. Give me the Devils.
There you go. I don't know if ASU can start out as fast as they did in the last game, but we'll see. All right, in football, jumping past this afternoon's game, guys, because it's about a 9.5-point spread for the division matchup of Seahawks-Niners. Let's get to a little bit more interesting in terms of the number here at Casino, Arizona. Chargers, -2.5 on the road at Jacksonville. Jackson, fire away.
I like the Chargers here, -2.5. I think when it comes down to which defense has been there before, which defense has more veterans, and you look on the Chargers side, they got a strength. Their strength on their team is this defense. I love Justin Herbert. And 2.5 points, I'm going to lay the points there with the Chargers.
Mike Gross, what do you think of this one? Chargers at the Jags, -2.5 for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Exactly. I am not, in case you haven't told by the previous comment, I'm not a fan of the Chargers, definitely not a fan of their head coach. And I'm impressed at what this Jacksonville team has done this year. You know, they were a disaster last year, and they've turned it around. They've turned it around quickly. So I like them to win a home playoff game today. Give me the Jaguars.
I would love to watch Trevor Lawrence. That guy's a bum, lose. So go Chargers. San Diego Supercharger. Oh, there's no LA song. That's a bummer. Guys, I went 3-1 last week, so I get to be goofy now, and I'm just going with my heart. Next game, Giants at Vikings. It is a 3-point game with the home Minnesota Vikings laying the 3, Jackson.
I can see this game going either way, so I'm going to take the under because both offenses have been struggling recently, and it's going to be a very low-scoring game, I believe. It's going to be a defensive game. Give me the under.
With this one, I'm taking the New York Football Giants because I'm a Bears fan, and I would love to watch the Vikings lose.
I'm not a fan of the Vikings either. You talk about a team that's, they won that division, but they could have very easily been closer to a 500 team with the way they played this year. And anyways, give me the Giants as well.
When you take a look at this next game, our guy Marco D'Angelo, last segment, he went Dallas 27-20 on Monday night. He's taken Dallas 27-20. Jackson, what do you think about this one?
So I'm conflicted because my stepdad's a huge Cowboys fan, and he's been telling me all week that the Cowboys are going to beat the Buccaneers.
Nobody's perfect.
But Tom Brady is 7-0 against the Cowboys. He's looking to make it 8-0 after Monday night. Give me the Bucs plus 2.5. Sorry, Mitch.
Oh, apologies to Mitch. Hey, you know what? I'm not picking a side in this one. I just look at that number, 45.5. Dallas has a lot of weapons. Tommy, look, the guy's ancient, but he still has a touch. Give me the over in this one, 45.5. I'll take it. Let's see some points in this game, boys.
I hate to do it, but I'm picking the Cowboys. Not a Cowboy fan, not a Cowboy homer, and sorry to Mitch, I'm not a fan of Cowboy fans either. But you look at teams, and I hate this worst team ever in the playoffs. Right? You heard it when the Cardinals were in it. You've heard it a couple of years ago with the Seahawks. This is a sub 500 team that happened to win a really, really bad division. So give me the Cowboys. Their run will end after that, but Cowboys win Monday night.
All right, best of luck to our listener. Mark B got in, and I love his picks. He just went over, under on his picks. So he's going up against Jeff Hoodzow. If he beats Hoodzow, he gets that $50 gift certificate to Best Deal in Town, and he's already automatically entered to win the season-long prize, a 75-inch 4K Smart TV, Best Deal, az.com. Boys, we got the second best weekend of the football season because next weekend's better. I know you guys were talking about this weekend
divisional,
earlier
you're right,
being great, but divisional weekend's even better. But that said, the playoffs begin today. How about your Super Bowl predictions? What do you call? Call your shot right now.
All right, for me, I'm going into left field. This team lost.
Baseball.
Yeah, you're right. This team last year lost the Super Bowl, and I think this is one of the hottest teams in football right now. They've won 10 of their last 11 games. They will be playing the 49ers, who also are very hot. Give me the Bengals over the 49ers as my Super Bowl prediction. The Bengals come back with Joe Burrow, with the coaching staff that's been there before. 49ers lose to 30. The Bengals.
I'm a wuss. I'm going chalk. Chiefs over Eagles.
I'm going Bills over the Eagles.
By the way, Chiefs-Bills, if that game happens in Atlanta.
I heard that. That's going to do it. Thanks to all our guests today. Thanks to everybody out here at the CAZ Sports Bar. We'll see you next week right here on Fox Sports 910.
You're clear.
Thanks, Ryan.